Call to order the Lowell City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, September 20th at 7:02. Roll call, please.
Mayor Bennett.
Here.
Councilor Harris.
Here.
Councilor Stratus.
Present.
Councilor Weathers. Councilor Murray.
Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands
One nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody have any changes they want to make to the agenda? First item up is the consent agenda. Members, I wish to request item be removed from the consent agenda, maybe for discussion as the first business item. No. Here. Well, we have on here the approval minutes of August 2nd, 2022, August 16th, 2022, September 6th, 2022, August 2022 check register to July financial reports. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Dale made the motion and Jenny seconded. All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next up, we have public comment. Anything from the public? Not here. There'll be a later time. Council comments? Staff report on page 132. 1/3 of the way through this.
Don't jinx it.
Good job.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everybody. I'll give a few updates since my last report at the August 16th meeting. Most of the construction at 70 North Pioneer Street is done. I'm planning on a meeting next week with the contractor and the architect to go through our punch list and reach an agreement on how we're going to define substantial completion for this project. The security system, most of that has been installed. The patching and zip code coding work on the parking lot has been completed. We'll talk a little bit later about the HVAC unit. Change orders. I do have a summary that I will be sending out to you later this week, but there have been no further changes. The library director and volunteers have been busy with processing our current collections to send a thrift book with surplus books, as well as cataloging the books that we're going to take over. Our library director estimates we'll be taking over half of our current collection. So they're putting that into the information integrated library system. On the East Main Street property, I received an additional work required letter, where they're requiring us to fill in some additional information relating to soil vapor sampling, groundwater conditions, and a survey of properties down gradient of the site. I reached out to the contractor on this to see if we could set up a meeting. They wanted to get further clarification from DEQ prior to meeting with me. I'll be contacting them soon, since it's been over 2 weeks since we had that conversation. Other items, the Blackberry Jam Festival Committee met on August 23rd. We talked about areas for improvement next year. It was a productive meeting. The understanding is that I believe came out of that is there needs to be a higher level of organization and discipline if we want to continue holding the festival. For me, in particular, the biggest area of emphasis is around risk management and safety. It's going to be absolutely critical that we have a risk management plan for next year. We also need a dedicated core of volunteers. I'd say at least a dozen people, if not more, who are going to treat this like a part-time job. And basically, we need to professionalize this and have a more disciplined structure. And that means I'm gonna have to be a little more hands-on next year. Luckily, we have a good chairperson. I work very well with her, and I plan on supporting her and coming up with a plan in the next few months. The Parks Committee met on September 1st. The discussion centered around the budget for the Parks Department and projects that they can do with limited staff supervision. I'm going to be meeting with the new chairperson that they selected tomorrow to discuss his priorities for the upcoming year. The Planning Commission met on September 7th. They approved our partition plats, so I'm going to get those filed. I actually learned today that our property line adjustment for the section of 70 North Pioneer Street, that has been reported by Lane County, and I want to start working on getting that ready to sell.
What, back up, I'm sorry, what? Did you start with?
That's the property line adjustment at 70 North Pioneer Street.
Have we done the requisite phase ones on any of the properties that we've identified for sale?
I really don't know if a phase one would be necessary.
Because I've been talking to, talk to Tim and other, not gonna call you timer, but people about the different uses that have gone on over the years.
Okay.
Obviously still bruised from what we're going through now, so I just wondered if we're similar situation.
That's a good point. I believe the circumstances are a little different since we're not underneath a loan to sell this piece of property.
Right, but we're gonna put money into it, so.
Sure. But what with the 80 North Island property, to give an example, we sold it as is, and it might be a possibility for us to do that the same with the other properties. But we can have that conversation. I'm going to be coming to you before I make any take any steps on this. I completed a marketing branding course with the Oregon Economic Development Association. They have a conference in October 9th through 11th in Tuesday, and I'll be going to that conference. A few other updates that aren't on my written report. I've been talking with Santa Pac about getting a franchise agreement with them. The city started those conversations in 2019, but it was never followed through. We previously had an agreement with them, and that agreement expired around 2019, 2018 timeframe. So I've been talking to them to see if we could get that finalized with the goal of getting an agreement by the end of the year.
Wasn't that when we brought in Star or allowed Star was it Star? Because before they couldn't come in and people wanted an alternative and some cost reduction. And so I think it was let go because Star came in and now they're out of business.
Santa Fe Falls.
Okay.
Did Santa Pac buy it out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we all have Santa Pac.
I always did. Yeah.
I didn't. It's tough this year.
No, it went back and forth. We have been on the council, the Santa Pac people, we had a good relationship going with them. And we would, they came in and we wanted a few small changes to the contract. They sent it to their lawyers. It came back to us with our lawyers. They made some more changes. So it went back and forth like that. And it's one of those that just drop.
I think it's something.
Yeah, it's like 3 and 4 months in between each one of them. And it just, I think the main thing that we wanted a 5-year contract. If I remember right, they wanted a 10-year contract. And whenever it takes 2 years, basically to redo a contract for a franchise agreement, 5 seems pretty short. So we were, and I think it just fell through the cracks, honestly.
Yeah. 'cause
Well,
we
it
were
was
working on
timing also, it's right with the former CA,
Right, that's what I was gonna
Bad
say.
timing.
That's why I think that it can go for the.
So it just,
Hopefully.
in
we
fact,
pick
we
up
brought
where
it
we
up, I
left
was
off.
surprised, well, we had to have one. We spent too many meetings going back and forth talking about it, not the final. realized it, but we never did.
No,
Well, I had a good meeting with them and they seem eager to get things on back on.
yeah, yeah. So,
I want to talk about. Actually, I'll say that a little further on. I received notice from Mary Wallace that she's resigning from the planning commission. I received that today, so I'll have her resignation letter at the next meeting to accept.
she's done that for a lot of years.
She has, she's been on it for several years. The city clerk's going to be at the Oregon City Recorders Association Conference next week, and I'll be filling in for her. I want to pass out a couple things. Our Public Works Department received an outstanding performance award.
Good for you.
I'll let Max talk about that. And I wanted to pass this around.
So we each get a copy, is that it?
Yes.
They resend.
Sure.
We have to always check. These out.
We need to, yeah, this needs to go on Facebook. We need to post this picture. Put it on Facebook. On Fall Creek.
Yeah. You go.
I'll use it.
I'll let Max toot his own horn about this, but this is a big achievement. This is a really big deal. And the good news is.
That's why I think we need to share it,
Yeah.
make sure it's seen by the community.
Absolutely.
Necessary.
Absolutely. The second handout I want to pass around is there was some discussion at the last meeting about the infrastructure money, the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I have a rural playbook from the administration. I'll let you all read it on your own time and maybe we can get some ideas going.
Taking a vacation.
Bedtime.
And then the last is, I want to talk about our planning calendar for the next few months. And I want to finalize this so I can let the applicants know what to expect and want to get your input tonight. The first is the community meeting next week on the code updates. The city council is neither required nor expected to be there, but these are going to be your constituents, so you might want to have at least one or two councilors show up.
Are you gonna have materials out at the meeting that will be available to us ahead of time?
I will find out.
I appreciate looking at it ahead of time before.
Actually, most of the materials are already on the city website.
Yeah, but that's really difficult for me. I would prefer to get a hard copy.
You want a hard
myself.
copy?
Yeah.
Get you a hard copy. Does anybody else want hard copies?
I can't.
Jeremy, are these all seven?
What's that?
The time of the meeting is-
The code update is at 6 o'clock, or the community meeting, that's at 6. The joint meeting on October 18th is at 6. And the rest should be at 7 o'clock.
The planning commission meetings.
Those are at 7. That's just for your information, you don't need to be there.
Right, I was gonna say. And you said the joint meeting is on 18th is the 6th.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any comments or questions?
I'm okay on the day.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I'll finalize the calendar with our planning staff. Get moving on this. That is the end of my reports.
What works?
Good evening, everyone. So both my things I have, Jeremy's already briefly mentioned. One is the parking lot at the library. If you guys haven't had a chance to look at it, it's phenomenal. Some of the repairs they had made were a little more than they anticipated. He did call me today and said that he was still going to honor the quote, the price that they initially quoted us. So they might come back and do a little bit of painting. I'm going to speak with Kurt to see with the ADA area. There's kind of like that unknown area. They did it per the spec plans, but his recommendation was to maybe wipe all of it just so nobody would park there. So if you had a chance or walk by or drive by, it looks phenomenal. So I'm really glad we did the whole parking lot. I think when we do have the opening to the public, it just looks a lot better in the eye. So second thing, we had our PS3, our water review. These typically are held annually for every 3 years, and in some cases every 5 years, depending on how you score on your previous review. This is a full open the books and just let them look at everything, and I mean everything. So this meeting, as you guys know, most of you were here or have known, we did get outstanding performer last time, and the time before we got the 3-year bypass. So this is a big achievement. Not a lot of people get this out of all the community water systems. I'd like to take all the credit for it, of course. However, it's pretty easy. You know, we started with a new staff a couple years ago, and we just trained them exactly like this. So when the lady came, it's her first time in the bowl, and it was a half-day thing, and she was gone. She responded to me immediately by email, asking for a couple of photos of reservoirs, and then we got this letter this morning, actually. So feels pretty good. That's something that we definitely take a lot of pride in. You know, we think we do a good job down there, but it's nice when somebody comes out and tells you you are doing a good job. So that is a huge accomplishment for us. And I definitely heard somebody talk about social media. We definitely should put that on our Facebook page. So we take a lot of pride, and we honestly do make very good water here. One other update, I briefly caught on at City Hall. We have 312 of the 484 water meters in. We had a little bit of a hiccup, you know, with the evacuation notice, and then we had some other significant leaks in town, which you guys all know if I told you on D Street. So put a little bit of a hamper on the meter replacement program. And then we took advantage of the opportunity and did caught up on mowing a little bit. So we're still on pretty strict fire restrictions. You know, we're in the medium one now, so we can only use power equipment to a certain time. So that's all I have. Anybody have any questions? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Yep, congratulations. Next up, the new business, motion to authorize the water master plan, page 134.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm asking for authorization from the council to submit the master plan that was presented to you to Oregon Health the Oregon Health Authorities. They require a review of all master plans. Their review fee is $4,125. After their review, if they have any changes they want to see, we'll make those changes. And then I'll bring it back to you to be formally adopted, the resolution for ordinance. Right now, I'm just asking for you to go ahead with the process started.
I still have some questions about the growth projections, and I'm not enough to hold this up, obviously, because it's modified, but also it ties in with this SDC recalculation and stuff. And I wondered, and sorry, I can't get through 300 pages and get to you by Monday morning, but, has the city ever done a residential lands study or, commercial land study? Have we ever done that here? Anybody remember?
Not to my knowledge.
Because again, you know, like we talked about before, the city limits and the urban growth boundary are the same, so there's really no chance of. I don't know, I'm wondering whether our projections are overstated because of the slope and the buildability of the land that we do have. And so the worst thing, again, if the UGB was out there and there was gonna be future stuff down the road, that'd be different, but because we're so constrained, if we miss sizing these things by 20%, that's millions of dollars, you know, not just 100 or 2, you know, so I just don't want to miss out on just knowing what it's the basis of so much of these plans and calculations. And then when you tie SECs into it, you can stifle growth that we need, or you can encourage, you know. So I just am feeling really uncomfortable with where we are on that population projection. What we really need to service going forward in the next 20 to 40 years. Not that I'm gonna be here, but I'm sitting in the chair now. Have you ever been through those before, those kinds of studies?
Yes, I have.
Because that's, again, when we're constrained, you know, we have a couple pieces of property that will be rezoned, and we've got land that's being rezoned commercial. We, you know, are we running short of one or the other? What we have here in Topeka County. So
So can we do that and still push this forward and make modifications?
yeah, we can. I mean,
I don't-
it's-
I'm ignorant, so I don't know this.
Well, I just wasn't able to get in. I get auditors coming Tuesday, you get that. As soon as that's open, my life should get back to someone who it's been a rough year, but so maybe after that we can talk to them, come in. I don't know, you know, it seems so. We're not looking at the big picture, you know, we take these things one at a time, and we never really get the idea that when we do this thing, it carries into that thing. When we do that thing, it carries into that thing, and then we get 20 years down the road and we go, well, why can't we do this? It's like, well, because we took all these steps one by one, not knowing how it was going to affect us. And I think that's important, and that population estimation is what triggered it for me, because that was super good. And in a little town, you know, 100, 200 people makes a big difference, not in Eugene, but it does here. So just a discussion, maybe.
It does, and my thoughts, just hearing you kind of lay this out, is this really dovetails with the comprehensive plan, which is what you're talking about, the broader picture of our overall growth, not only in population, but the growth patterns. And one important section of that has to do with our demographics, as well as our housing. And our last comprehensive plan, our comprehensive plan is probably 20 years old. So I believe it's probably time for us to revisit, redo our comprehensive.
So I wonder if these new plans we're doing even conform to our comp plan. So again, when we take these things one at a time without looking at the big picture, I'm not sure we're making sure we're marching forward, and we just go off on something and if we guess right, that's super. If we don't guess right, then we burden the future with stuff that we didn't think out there. And we're small enough, we ought to be able to do this.
Well, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, that's how I say, discussion down the road.
Yeah, I saw those numbers, and we've got the Rock Crest development. Dr. Beyond's development, and the one up on Wetlow. Really, that's taken up kind of quite almost all of the really buildable land, but if you go west, Marina Vista, those people aren't looking to subdivide. And even past that, so.
CCNR, we're good.
So they're projecting numbers. We're growing like this for right now, but I see almost a plateau or a slow increase like that. So I don't, and I think the projection was more of a continual like that. I just don't see that happening either.
That's what I heard him say,
Yeah.
and he'd already adjusted for Rock Crest and the known ones, so. The growth rate applied is on that plus current, so.
And on top of that, when I hear about that big tower going in, unless we go west, we're doing it for a small portion of town. Seems like to me, I just don't see the growth being there. I really do. It's, I think, if a 20-year or 50-year plan or whatever like that, it may take 50 years to get to those numbers. So I don't know. I'm not comfortable with this. Okay.
The projected population growth is a 2/3 reduction over the past 10 years of population growth. So I'm not as concerned, it's still being somewhat modest. We do then get a reduction in the growth rate.
Where did you see that? Because that's not what it's told us, straight.
So our last 10 years, our growth rate is 2%. And their forecast for the current decade, or the most recent decade, 26, and 27, and 28. We go out.
Right, but we have. Is this the? Yeah, right, but I mean, what documents?
That's part of the same one. That's part of that water master
Yeah,
plan.
yes.
It's within it.
Okay. Because there was a different chart.
Yeah, he was using numbers, I think, different than that.
Yeah, he had 2516 or something like that, as another that struck me. Anyway, there's a lot of material and it's hard for a layperson to get through it, but we gotta try.
Yeah.
I don't want to just. Okay.
It's a snapshot, an opinion almost, but, if we don't have the growth, if we don't do some of the building and some of the improvements.
But when we're talking about sewer and water systems, that's a big deal, that's not
Yeah.
just, whether you're gonna punch a street through.
Yeah, because if we go in there to upgrade the water system, we want us to upgrade it, whatever the master plan.
And then
Well,
you're gonna
those
raise the rates
projections,
in order to get the revenue to do it, and then what's that do to everybody, I just.
If we want to spend $4,000 and send this to the next agency. Need a motion.
But we do need to get this done, right? I mean, we have an obligation to submit something there. What I understood.
If we want to have a adopted master plan, then it does need to go to OHA.
And the trick here is, this is how this stuff works. When you get an infrastructure bill, they're not gonna give us money unless we have a plan. This is how it works. So, but I also wanna ask, I guess, plans are plans. And plans can be changed, given new information. So I don't want anybody to think that these are carved in stone. We can change plans.
That's what I was saying. We
Right.
can go ahead and start, and then if we have our
Yeah.
discussions and feel like we need to adjust.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
That's kind of what I was.
we
thinking.
have to get in the game, otherwise we shoot ourselves in the foot.
Right, right. So we need to do this, and then
Yeah,
we need to
go
make
ahead.
sure we look at.
I'll make a comment on the master plan. Gail, to answer your question, we are required by OHA to have a master plan. We are currently expired. That was the sense of urgency on this, 2-year urgency. And then also what Marine's saying. So this plan identifies our deficiencies and it identifies recommended products to fix that. The biggest thing the state's gonna look at is the deficiency we have, the fire flows, the capacity, the leak capacity, the meter projects identified in there. So it's not, we're not saying if we push this through HA, let's say, yep, we're gonna build that plant, like Marine's saying, It's just gives us a model to get funding on, we could get this adopted and then some of this money comes out and we decide, you know what, just by maybe doing this project, it's gonna get us by for the next 15 or something like that, They have to put a dollar amount assigned to it because that's what they do as engineers and, that's what we hired them to do. They did a full risk assessment for equipment and everything. But yes, the plans can change. The last master plan, we kind of picked a couple different things for the sewer plant in the last 20 years on the upgrades that we did. We didn't pick option 1, option 2, option 3. We kind of picked what we could afford and what we thought fit in the city at the time. So, yeah, this is just something.
Low
for
hanging
us.
fruit too, in terms of things you can do quickly, that'll make a difference.
There is some low hanging fruit. The water plant not as near as much as the sewer plant. Obviously the sewer plant, with I can get a lot bigger bang for buck, and that will be coming, a little bit closer to time. But there is some small things we can do. That's in the plan. They're not big projects identified in there, but there is still some small things we can do. Yep.
I'll move approval of the engineering scope of services.
A motion to, we have a second.
I'll second.
Motion by Modine, second by
Mr. Mayor, I believe that's on the wrong agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was for the SDC. Motion to approve the city administrator to submit the water master plan.
And I'll second.
Further discussion, questions about the water master plan, assignment plan? The school did seismic work on the school, and it was a small fortune, I know that we're talking about overdo stuff like that for whatever, but I tell you what, when I see the word seismic, I see a whole bunch of zeros, I come from a part of the world that actually had seismic, and I'm not a long time resident here, but after 10, 12 years, we've had one earthquake. I know there's a big one hanging out there, and when it happens, I don't know that the way they talk that anything's going to save it, but you can do a whole lot of seismic work and spend a whole lot of money, and like I say, 1.4. We reach a point where we sit there and do this, and you know what people in the Bay Area do is they go 3.8, no, 3.9. I think it's only a 3.6. And so, and 4.5, yeah, at least 4.5. So that's what people do. They just sit there. After they happen, it becomes such a common occurrence. You just sit there and you guess about how much it was. It was like the one we had here. I think it was a 4.0. That's what we were on the deck.
It
sitting
was
out there.
one hard.
That's what we did. We sat there, we debated back and forth how big it was, and then slide and check to see. So, but anyway, seismic work. Anyway, all those in favor of motion to authorize the city administrator to submit the water master plan and seismic risk assessment of my mitigation plan to the Oregon Health Authority, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next up is motion to approve the SDCs on 308.
I'm recommending that we start a project to update our system development charges for the water fund as well as the parks fund. What this scope of service would do would be for Civil West to analyze our capital improvement needs that are based in the water master plan that we just looked at. And they'll figure out how much future growth there's going to be in the city, and then come up with a way to calculate how much that future growth needs to contribute to those capital improvements so that the growth can pay for itself. Since we already have a parks master plan, I forwarded that to him, and as part of this project, we'll also look at updating our parks SDC fund so that that growth can pay its fair share for our parks needs over the years to come.
And the funding.
That's another plan that I
There's two parts to it, right? For equipment we've already built, paying for that, so everybody's paying into it, and then there's anticipated monies that we're gonna need to build future items. Does that sound right?
So that, you know.
On the SDCs are a combination of things that's already built, like the water plant down there. So if somebody hooks up brand new, they're helping to pay for that water plant. And then for new development, there's a portion for that too, and they kind of combine them both, if I understand it right.
I believe the way to understand this is increasing capacity, period. Whenever you have growth, development, that increases demand on our system. And we need to increase our capacity to accommodate that new growth. So that growth is paying for its share of increasing our capacity.
So sometimes they go down. You look at it, there's a whole myriad of items, as they get paid off or whatever, you'll see pluses and minuses. Some items go up, some items go down, whenever they look at the whole SBC master plan. By what we're doing, what we're not doing. So I don't know what the like more money or less money. But anyway, is it an annual thing that we have to do on that? Is that the idea it's supposed to be annually? I think some reason I was thinking it's supposed to, it's not, okay.
No, you can,
Years can go by.
I would recommend at least updating it. If not every year, at least every 2 to 3 years for CPI. But the idea behind doing these master plans is to identify your future capital needs. And that's 10 years down the road. And then as growth occurs, it pays for those needs.
There's different methodologies to SDCs and it's controversial. That's again, it's something that I think it's important for us to understand what the methodology they're going to use so that we understand what's going into it and that it fits with our community. Because I think a lot of times these things are applied standard and some things scale and some things don't, you know. And I think it's important for us, I think, to understand what the methodology is going to be. I mean, not to be engineers, but you know what I mean. If they can't explain it to a layperson, then we're in trouble.
Yeah, whether they I agree. When I first came on the council, it's been over 10 years since they've updated them. So, they get like I say, someone up and went down, actual knowledge themselves, or the plans.
And some people have a dog in the fight that makes a difference. So you just need to know there's influences there.
And for when I see on here, it says Portland State is back in the business of helping protection because about 6 years ago, we did one with using Seattle numbers with a I don't think ours is that high clutch factor. So you kind of watch this thing get put together, you kind of, shoot, I can guess too. So we have professionals doing this year with the Civil West. So I feel much better about that. Go ahead. Somebody.
Need a motion? I'll make a motion to approve the September 15, 2022 engineering scope of services from Civil West Engineering Services Incorporated in the amount not to exceed 11,486 to update water and park system development charges and to authorize the city administrator to sign.
We have a motion by Gail, second by recently did new streets.
We don't have a streets master plan.
Okay.
Well, we do, but it's from 1999 or.
I know we had the streets we over there, we did on a street replenishment, I think we went through that, so it wasn't master plan. Okay. The other questions, thoughts? All those in favor of motion to approve the September 15, 2022 engineering scope of services for Civil West Engineering Services Incorporated in amount not to exceed $11,486 to update the water and smart system development charges and to authorize the 6-inch paper sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Good. Next up is on 312. Air conditioning system for the library city hall.
All right, I'm asking for a decision tonight from city council on selecting a HVAC contractor to put in a new unit. I have a bid tabulation here and an explanation of the results. We have a bid from Priority One for $13,787. The difficulty with this proposal is that their unit, which is the only one they have available, would require us to install 3-phase electric service to the building, which would be an additional cost to us. The second is Innovative Air, $11,455. They said that there will need to be some additional electrical work based on what kind of unit it is. It's typically, this kind of unit, they typically put on a roof, but it can go on the ground. But the way that it's configured, it would require some special electrical work that we'd have to do separately. Harvey and Price, $16,142. This is what the Bridgeway subcontractor submitted. Their lead time is late October, early November. Alpine Heating and Air, I received this yesterday, $12,511. They recommend adding on an economizer for $2,050. What the economizer does is it brings in outside air. So in summertime at night, instead of kicking on the AC, it'll pump in outside air to cool down the building. In the wintertime, instead, if you've got a lot of people in the building and it's getting kind of hot in there, instead of kicking on the AC, it'll bring in some outside air. And it's supposed to be a cost savings. I also contacted James Heating and Air and Comfort Flow Heating, haven't received a response. We can't get our final mechanical inspection completed until the new unit is in and the systems are balanced. I did talk to our building inspector yesterday as well as our architect. And there are ways we can work around it to where we can get a certificate of occupancy.
So did Alpine say when they could get the unit, and wasn't it a train? Was Alpine a train?
It is a train unit, and they said 3 to 5 weeks.
How come we called Comfort Flow or email James?
They had an email. Actually, I did call James, and the person I talked to gave me an email for their business rep. That's what he did.
If we've got 2 units in that Alpine, talking about an economizer. If one unit is running on one system, the other one on the other system. I don't think they get confused about how that's gonna balance out, honestly.
I asked them.
Both of them were working on it. I can understand that, but if one does have an economizer, another doesn't have an economizer, then
I asked them
You
that.
probably wouldn't have balanced energy usage, but you can still have balanced air flows and those numbers that you're looking for when you do these things for the returns supply from the air using the economizer. So you probably wouldn't have, like I said, the unit that doesn't have the economizer, you're probably going to see less energy efficiency out of that unit. So the old units that we're not replacing this time.
Jeremy asked the question, so he hasn't answered.
It's not going to pose an issue. It's a nice thing to have, but it's not going to affect that system.
It just adds air to the space, so it's not gonna, it doesn't matter that they both them. And you don't have to have it at all. That's an option.
It's true, throw out that.
I've seen significant cost differences between, these vendors that are listed here when getting bids from them before. And they were significant enough where I'd like to see all, if we can get a response from them. Up to like 600%.
Well, I can-
So it was for a smaller scale item, but it was still 600%.
between. I think Comfort Flow will be more expensive, Tim.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So
They're the
so
most
here's the example. So one of the companies on here, bid $6,000 for a job. One of the companies here bid $1,000 for a job.
Well, I think sometimes companies don't really want to do it. That's why we.
That's one way to get to know it. Yeah, right.
But, so you don't feel like we have enough between these to, I mean, I feel like with Harvey and Price being 16,000. I mean, that's way up there. And Innovative Air is 11,455. What was there? I know we probably have that, Jeremy. I just don't have it.
Well, the 3-phase proposals out, we don't,
Yeah, no,
absolutely not. So I would say if, we're looking at 2 bids here, you've got Alpine, Innovative is an option, but I honestly believe we can't work in the quote or asking at or below these 2 quotes.
Just if we can't get them to respond, then
If all we've done is send one email, I think that's not gonna shake them free.
well, is that what he said you had to do to get your quote?
These folks are really, really busy right now.
Well, I know
yeah,
that's
and if
part
you're
of,
just talking to the receptionist, that's,
well, I understand that, you guys, but remember, equipment is way out. And they're really busy, so yeah, we just don't want to keep putting this off because we're just putting ourselves that much further out. That's all I.
So, but all we're doing tonight is reviewing quotations, we're not making a decision.
I'm asking for a decision tonight.
We're approaching November.
The best option we have here, Alpine Heating and Air, I need to let them know ASAP because they have only 1 unit available in Tacoma, Washington, and if I don't let them know tomorrow.
I mean, that's the only thing we have to.
Harvey and Price, they were mid-October, now they're late October,
Well, Harvey and Price was way over these.
Yeah.
all these two.
so Tim, if you had to pick between the Innovative Air approach or proposal and Alpine.
We talk about the innovative air with or without the economizer. Innovative air can install, the Alpine. Innovative air can install an Alpine. Any of these companies can install an economizer too. It's just Alpine trying to sell us on that aspect of it.
Well, that would make them 14.
Yeah.
Or is, yeah.
So
We have
14.5.
We're gonna need an electrician now.
that's correct.
Let's see, that quote, Jeremy.
I texted you that quote. Yeah. You said not, right? Yeah, so that's gonna save us $1,050 probably right there. So and Innovative is an electrician. So if I had to choose between those 2 options, I would probably say the Alpine. And if they're throwing in the electrician, I think we try to gain the efficiency by the economizer.
Yeah. Is that a motion, Tim?
Yes. I'll make a motion to accept quote D from Alpine Heating and Air Conditioning with the economizer option.
Motion by Tim, second by Jimmy. Other discussion? All those in favor of accepting D Alpine Heating and Air Conditioning quote with the economizer as an option? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Order, or somebody else buys it.
If it falls through, are you going to revisit this?
Yes,
We're gonna wait 2 weeks or whatever, to revisit it, or
if I call them tomorrow and they say the unit's already gone, I'm gonna hit up these other two companies and burn up their phone and get a special meeting scheduled. So we get this, we've got to get this unit put in.
And Jeremy just text me.
up to 3:34 now.
Okay.
Bill 5.
Wait a minute, what are we doing first?
Planning Commissioner Bill Preiser has resigned. He's got a really good job opportunity lined up. He's gonna be leaving us. He's done a good job on the planning commission. Hate to leave him. But I have his resignation letter here, and it's a good practice for the council to accept the resignation so that the record reflects that.
So you need a motion. I'll make a motion to receive the resignation letter from Planning Commissioner William D. Preiser.
Second.
Motion by Gail, second by, you see, to accept the resignation. Any further discussion, whatever? Thank you. I understand you want to, do for it.
Yes.
Higher paid travel, their department. Good for him. All those in favor of accepting the resignation letter from Planning Commissioner Billy Pfizer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I see you.
I remember when he was fine. Yeah, Bill, that's right. Mom and Dad live a couple houses down from me.
Next up is Lloyd Hall, application for planning commission, 337.
I advertised in the bridge that we had vacancies on the planning commission. I've received one application so far. This is Lloyd Hall. He works here at the fire department. He actually participated on the code committee meeting when we had that a few months ago. Seems very interested in serving the city, especially in a capacity that's related to planning and land use. He wasn't able to be here tonight. He had some other things that he had to attend to, but I wanted to put this on your agenda to review. You're certainly able to approve this and appoint him, or to hold off until we get further applications, or to wait until he can be here to talk to you, whatever you wish to do at your discretion.
I'm awful nervous about firefighters.
Oh, because of Bill.
Because of what?
Because of Bill, Billy, see, I thought
Yeah.
Do we have comments or anything?
Well, given that we're gonna have another resignation coming up, I think we need to put somebody in place.
Yeah, I was kind of.
I mean, we're gonna have an opportunity for other interested people to apply for that one. So.
Even my neighbor.
Oh, good. All right. So I'll make a motion that we approve the application of Lloyd Hall for the planning commission.
Second.
Commissioner vacancy.
We have motion by Gail, second by Maureen. Accept Lloyd Hall's application. I've gone to some of the fire board meetings. He does a lot of the training like that, and just sitting and listening to what he performs, with the actions he does, everything like that. He puts a high level of quality of work, so I think he will be a good addition. So I don't worry about him. Anyway, all those in favor of accepting the application of Lloyd Hall for planning commissioner, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Holiday planning, Christmas.
Yeah, I wanted to get the conversation going on holiday planning and programming. My staff is starting to ask questions about what we're going to be doing this year, and I'll want to communicate to them expectations. What I hope to get out of this conversation is some ideas from you on what you'd like to do as far as programming and decorations. You don't have to figure it all out tonight, but at least start moving in a direction.
Well, it is October. We're gonna do a tree lighting. We gotta do our annual tree lighting.
Is that ran by the Parks Department? No.
It has been in the past.
Okay, but, so you have Brazil in there now, right? For us to have a good turnout, we need to have the school, choir, band, people like that in there. So I would suggest that, Bill Brazil contacts, the school to see if they would be willing to participate. Without them, because everybody's mother, grandmother, aunt, brother, sister, whatever, they show up for it. So we see at least twice the turnout. And
Well, it's just nice too.
talking, I guess, Max, he can talk to you about that for busing, getting it down there, getting it set up. I'm sure the Grange would still be willing to do the refreshments, and we have heaters. If it's going to be cold on that night, I think we own them already. We can bring
Just
we'll bring heaters so people can stand under. PA system. Whoever they was is around anymore, but we have all PA system now. So anyway, we've got all the equipment, so I think just have the parks committee start putting it together, get the timetable when it's gonna be done. They can look at all ones, you know, but
I had a whole calendar set from March, starting to do stuff, so that, I don't know where that is, but
it's a event that I think that
yeah.
the
community
town rallies around.
I see Suzanne's on the call and she's on the school board and I work there. Joe doesn't, I wouldn't put that on Joe. I'd be happy to contact John and the rest and see. If that's they're gonna do
Just
something.
birthday.
Trouble is you can't get bus drivers.
No, it's a.
Somebody wants to take their CD home between now and.
I
And,
think we did- we had
I don't-
those.
They're just already there.
I don't need this to be something to be brought back on the city administrator. This is something that the volunteer community has always done. As it's, you can have oversight and things like that to make sure that all the insurances are bought, things like that. As for like I say, it's something, it's a community event. So
Okay, so if Marie's gonna check with the school. Can you check with the Grange?
and we get the fire department in, they go come in and close the thing down and take it home. There's a whole, he's aware of the whole process of how to get this decorations. We already spent money on decorations and everything. So, oh, and this is the tree.
Sharon Carroll, that's that. It's pretty locked down. It has been.
Yeah, it's the last couple of years, it's because of the situation.
Right.
The last, I think we still did a phenomenal job, but, and this doesn't just necessarily reflect only the bridge lighting, you know, we've done some stuff at the park, council made a decision, we purchased some Olympic snowflakes. We just need direction on how big we want to do, what exactly we want to do. There's been a lot of talk about the community green. Yes, it gets vandalized every year, but it's great. You know, for the last 2 years we've done it, so. It is a big task for me and my staff, huge, we put many hours into it, so I'm all for getting, you know, more support from volunteers. First couple of years I was here, we had a lot of help from the Grange, a lot of help from the public. And we did it over a week instead of a couple of days before.
Well, so we start looking for volunteers now, getting figured out exactly.
Yeah, maybe advertise it, you know. like-
Yeah, maybe put it in the bridge.
Yeah.
And say, start thinking now and
I took some notes last time, you know, we need to get a hold of Mr. and Mrs. Claus early, they had a prior obligation last year. Like Tom saying, that's always a big success with people, you know, drive out here just to see Santa and Mrs. Claus, so. If we can make the contacts off of that. Maybe firm up a date, we definitely need a date, we've always done it at certain.
isn't it like
Saturday.
the first Saturday of December
I
usually?
think it's the first.
First Saturday
following
after Thanksgiving.
Oh, after. Oh, that's good. That's gonna be this.
whether it's a full blown thing or not, people still enjoy seeing the tree at the end.
That's December 3rd. Yep.
I already told Jeremy that, I'm working on a big project for work, for the next 3 months in Medford. And, add an extra day on my week, for my work week. And so I'll be out of town for a good portion of time, starting October 1st through January. Yeah, so in terms of the park itself, I think we go with kind of status quo of what we had last year. We might need a little bit more money to decorate with some of the ones we built last year. Might need to replace those a little bit. I think I had an extra bit of light stuff over last year. But I think the lights and signs that we got last year, from the manufacturer, we adequate for this year. Or those over the stage. At some point in the future, I would like to change over to the live tree that we talked about previously.
Well, can we come up with a list of what we need in terms of volunteers and then publish that and start asking for volunteers for specific things? Can we put that in the bridge?
We can, but I'm telling you, the best way to get volunteers is to ask people. Direct ask is always the better way. We know lots of people, we just need to, go
And we need to
ask it roots, ask it,
what are you doing at the road?
We're,
Oh, okay.
just some work.
Jeremy, this might be premature, my own bias, but our library director has talked numerous occasions about a desire to do events. Some kind of pop-up events about different cultures and their holiday traditions. And so first year, so maybe it's a little too soon for that. But we should see very excited about doing it.
Would that be at the library? You think? Yeah, if we're ready, yeah, it would be fun to do something. And that would be a great thing. We're doing this kids' school.
And she has expected to numerous occasions.
So well, maybe we need to ask her, what do you feel like you could manage this year and?
I believe she'd be interested. I actually talked to her today about that, and we're gonna have a holiday display in the library soon. I believe she'd be excited.
Well, then what we need we need a list of what we need volunteers for, so we can all start asking people to help. So it's not just one person. So how can we get that list together? I don't know. Can I come sit down with you, Max, or something? And
I get you,
I'll see if I can get you the whole list of calendars.
okay,
Part of it's relevant. Very good.
Okay. what?
Yeah, I can shoot you another Jeremy too, just the big items.
All right.
The tree is a big one because as most of you know, the big trees, they start going like March. If you go to Sharon Carroll's property, there's ribbons on them and they leave them intact, some of them for 2-3 years. So they get just right, so.
Where is she? I've never.
No,
Sharon Carroll, she was just here yesterday for a foundation meeting. She has Carol's tree farm in Jefferson City. And City or Benita.
No tie, she has 2, but yeah, the big tree farm is in no tie.
Does she usually donate or?
She, out of the 8 years I've been here, she's donated all 1 year, and it was because it was a last minute thing. We literally went 2 days before the ceremony and got it free.
Yeah, if we ask her now. She has I'm pointing, she never pointed in the right direction.
I don't either, so you're fine.
The subdivision, so what is it?
Was,
You can see that.
not Sunset,
Sunrise?
Stone Ridge. Stone Ridge, yes.
Stone Ridge.
And
The
you
extension
know
of
her
the
dad,
plan.
you know the family. And his name is
The son,
no, dad.
oh, I know Nate Stapleton pretty well.
I'm lost, but anyway. That's okay. Well, then we'll just get
I'll
together
put
and
this together.
figure it, yeah, and then I may need everybody's help though to know who to call. I don't know everybody. Whatever, we all might have, okay, give it to me.
Well, I just say that yes, they're all
So I just
brand
need
new
to
now.
call her and ask for the, for the chief
Yeah,
for
Blackbird.
the donated Christmas tree this year.
Yeah.
I can probably do.
We're gonna need a person to use for the lights, we were talking about that last year. So we got some. Biggest thing is help, I'm telling you, it's a,
Well, that's what I mean, the
Yep.
list of what we need, then we can make sure we have people lined up to do
it's not
stuff.
even big. things,
And
it's just
figure out dates of when we need to do.
Yes,
Exactly.
Yep.
Pick rainy days also, actually.
Yeah.
So I'm gone for 2 weeks, but as soon as I get back, we'll start working on this because we need to get it nailed down. 2 weeks.
Anything else?
I just volunteered.
Public comment?
Oh,
Yeah,
I should do. I'm not working on this. Did you pass on your other? Oh.
Sandra said.
What?
Well, I've already put forth, yeah.
We're almost done, so you don't have to sit back down.
My name's O'Regan, I'm at 62 Easter. I was just wondering how the code citations are coming along, and the property cleanups are coming along. That's a
You have anything on that, or? I know you're busy with a lot of things right now, so.
As of right now, I don't have any reported code issues that are an immediate threat to public safety or health. For everything else, I will try to get to it when I can, but right now I'm laser focused on trying to get the 70 North Pioneer Street project done, as well as our docket for land use and development issues. So that's what's taking up my time.
Okay.
Yes,
I think we talked several months back when during the budget, Leilene had this great format and we talked about, using that for reporting going forward. And now that we've got June done, I just didn't want to lose sight of it. So I'm hoping maybe by like in the first quarter, that she might be able to resurrect that, or I don't have it on me, but it was a nice, easy to read because, those financial statements, I do this for a living and they're as bad as the schools system. And that's why we convert it to something that's readable, for board members and the public. And she had a really good format. We talked about that. I think you remember, it might have been your format, even I don't know, but anyway, I think we need to do a better job on making these reports readable. It's not very. The detail's nice to have if you want to dig down, but it's for our packet, it's.
one of the meetings I sit in on has to do with ODOT. And one of the leaders of ODOT was telling that the governor's office is following California's concept idea proposal that no gas vehicles will be sold after 2035, or it's not following it, but that's the direction they're wanting to go.
Well, it's California and Washington.
Gas stations will still be open, but you have to go buy your car somewhere else to drive it here. You have to buy it. Anything else? We adjourned at 8.
Oh, that's